and welcome to the basement. It's Wednesday, January 11th, 2017, and as we used to say during my very brief stint in the United States Army, it's almost Friday. That said, we're up to episode 17 of Blue Seed, this individual episode titled Let It Bloom, Japan, a Blizzard of One-Sided Love. The original air date was January 25th, 1999, while the English air date was January 1st. In the year 2000, in the year 2000. Yeah, that's right. I've been waiting all day to do that bit. And for those of you who may not know, it's back on when Conan O'Brien had a show on NBC, the late night with Conan O'Brien. There was a sketch called In the Year 2000, and one of it was making predictions about what would happen in that year with what was it, La Bamba singing In the Year 2000 in a high falsetto pitch. I myself cannot do falsetto, so I do what I can. And I already got myself sidetracked here to explain the bit, but anyway, let's get right to it anyway. Episode 17 of Blue Seed. And I don't really know how to feel about this episode because coming off the heels of episode 16, where Mr. Kunikita, an old friend of his is dead. He left them a letter saying all these things, how Japan is that the Japan that they once knew is gone, and it's basically unworthy to be claimed by the various gods, and that the global industrialization done by mankind is basically killing the planet. Add on to it of just how far down humanity itself has sunk in terms of actual behavior, Mr. Kunikita is kind of having a bit of a crisis, and how he's coping with this is throwing himself so far into his work, to the point where he's kind of becoming a stereotype of a middle-aged resident of Japan in terms of the obsession with the work at everything else. You could say he's kind of going down Matsudara's path with this, but it's a little bit different. Is that unlike with Matsudara, who's a scientist and her research is everything else, Mr. Kunikita is the leader of the TAC. So, and while he's doing his duty, he's at the same time questioning what is he trying to protect and why is he trying to protect it. Because, again, let's face it, even if you weren't, with all the crap that's even going on today here in the year 2017, back in the early to mid 90s, yeah, there was a lot of questionable things being done by mankind. That kind of makes you wonder. It's like, yeah, maybe it's time for like Mother Nature to strike back in a big bad way. So, with that said, how does this progress? Well, enter Ryoko Takeuchi, a character that I haven't really talked about much because, let's face it, she hasn't really done much. She's practically in every episode, always by Kunikita's side for the most part, but if you were to take like the cast of the TAC and toss in Kusanagi with it will kind of break down like this. Momiji and Kusanagi will be our stars, our headline attraction. Mr. Kunikita, Kome, Matsudara, and Yagashi will be like that step below, the primary supporting cast that they contribute in various ways throughout nearly every episode. While Takeuchi, Ryoko, she is below that. I mean, she's not a scientist. She is a former law enforcement officer, but and you could argue you could say that she is the second in command because she does take charge, but at the same time, it's almost by default when you really think about it. And even then, Matsudara seems to have more authority than she does. Uh, and I'm referring to Ryoko here, Takeuchi. So here's a character that's there, whose contributions to the team and to the story itself doesn't really it hasn't really been explored in any major way. Now, this episode does establish the fact that she does love Mr. Kunikita, and to a very strong degree, she is worried about his health. And so personally, she's worried about him. Professionally, she is worried about him because if something happens to Mr. Kunikita, that affects the TAC as a whole. He is the boss. He is the glue. Um, he while he makes us rather stupid puns that apparently she likes, if you take him out the picture, there's no telling if the rest of the TAC would come together or would fall apart without him. Now, she does try to express her affections for him, bringing him a packed lunch deal. And Kunikita doesn't appear to pick up on the obvious signs of affection because he deems himself an old fossil and that Ryoko should go find some young guy to quote unquote cook for. But there is a number of cute scenes between the two. One, Kunikita playing a claw game to get a lion that Ryoko says looks like him because of his trademark beard. Ends up getting a monkey instead, but it kind of looks like him in its own way. The final scene where of the episode where she considers saying to him that she loves him, but instead says, "I love Japan," while blushing heavily, which he kind of points out. And then there's the scene where she sees him going off, and she decides to follow him, and ends up being cornered by a gang of punks who appear to want to do something that rhymes with the word grape. Yeah, subtract the G. Yeah, there's that implication in this episode. But hey, Mr. Kunikita comes to her aid. Say for that was what you will about damsels in distress, but she didn't have, and she knew she was in trouble. Tried to get out of it, but didn't really have much of a chance to do so. Still, still at the same time, there is enough there that even if there is no actual relationship pursued, it's definitely firmly established that there is amount of caring going on between them. And then Mr. Kunikita does care about all members of the TAC, but Ryoko is really concerned about him. Now, on the Momiji front, it turns out that Kusanagi has been chasing after Katie for a number of weeks. So this episode is the first time she has seen Kusanagi, and how she sees him is when he's being basically he's being thrashed by a giant origami creature that is promptly and effectively dealt with a well-aimed bazooka blast by Kome. And Momiji and Ryoko have a little chit chat in a hot tub, or spring of sorts, about going for it as it relates to Momiji telling Kusanagi how she feels about him, while Momiji goes off to do what feels right. Matsudara teases Ryoko about taking her own advice and expressing her affections for Mr. Kunikita. So again, things kind of intertwined a bit there. Momiji is also still bothered by the vision she had, and had a vision of herself holding Susanna O's infant form in a pool of water, and that comes into a head here, where we talk about the overall plot of the series. Um, our heroes end up encountering and confronting Katie and Murakumo. Katie declares herself that her former self, the girl that Mr. Kunakita raised, is no longer Katie Kudenkita. She is Katie Kushinada, and that she and Murakumo are going to have performing a spell to help age Susanoo from his infant form to a form of adolescence, and while reinforcing the fact that their overall plan is to wipe out humanity so that the plants can take over the world, and that Japan is going to be the crown jewel, the capital of sorts for their new world order. So, not much plot advancement that way. It's just a reminder of what we already knew, what their intentions were. But this is them at the same time formally declaring it outright. So you could say that that this episode confirmed it, because it was just a theory as related to what was going on in the previous a handful of episodes. But to get that confirmation, okay, the stakes are definitely raised, and we are rapidly approaching, of course, the end of the series. But still, with all that said, this was definitely a character-driven episode. It revolved a lot around Ryoko Takeuchi and Mr. Kunakita, which is fine. At the same time, I still do wish that we got to know Ryoko a little bit more than what we did prior to this point. And as I said, I never read the manga, so I don't know if what we saw in this episode is an accurate representation of her character's portrayal within the original source material. So, on that note, my friends, and you are my friends, next time we'll be talking anime will be Friday night, early Saturday, with episode number 18, which is, geez, oh man, Sakura's not good enough? But between now and then, of course, we got a comic book review coming up tomorrow on Thursday. I'm going to be spending some time tonight going around to all of the YouTube channels I'm personally subscribed to, and I'm going to be checking out a lot of your guys' content. I might pop on to Twitch to do a live stream tonight, continue the stuff on Kambali Prime on Star Trek Online. If not, I do have something else in mind as it pertains to Sherlock. It's just a matter if I want to get that political or not. But again, we'll catch you next time, my friends. And again, you are my friends right here in the basement.